And we're back.
We are back.
It's been a long time. It's been 2 or 3 weeks since we've done this.
2 weeks.
Has it?
Not quite 2.
Has it? Okay. Well,
I think we just skipped one, didn't we?
We might have.
I thought we just skipped one.
Yeah. Time's just flying
Or
by.
did we skip last week? No, we went. We pushed through last. No, we didn't. We. Oh my goodness.
I was in Auckland for 4 days last week.
We're trying to put this timeline
We
together.
skipped it. We did Loki the week before.
Yeah.
So that's why time's lost on us. It's just. But it's good to be back. Life has been busy. But
we're back.
We're back.
And what are we doing tonight?
Okay, we're doing, this is our little preamble, and then we have our intro, and then we say what we're doing.
I don't get what the preamble is.
This is a very bad one.
I think we accidentally do a preamble, don't we?
Yeah, I usually just hit record and you don't realise that we're preambling.
Yeah. Why didn't you do that this time?
I don't know. I've lost my touch. I haven't seen you in ages. Like, we haven't caught up in a long time.
Wow, it's only been
2
weeks.
2 weeks. Yeah. How have you been?
Yeah, pretty good. Next question will be, what am I playing, right?
Yeah, I was going to fit what are you drinking somewhere in there.
Hot chocolate, as always. Now, for some reason, I've gone from tea to hot chocolates.
Yeah.
I noticed that they've got a stash of hot chocolates in their pantry.
Just working your way through it because we're not.
Yeah. And it's got milk this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I picked up milk especially for you.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
Appreciate it.
I'm drinking Export Gold, which is different. I never usually drink beers on the podcast, but there you go. Just feeling something a bit refreshing. Yeah, what are you playing?
What am I playing? Recently, the past 2 or 3 times I've been able to play Xbox at the moment. I've just been playing Fallout 76.
Yeah.
I'm just going to make sure I got the number right. They just seem kind of random to me where they get the numbers for the vaults from. You're
going full circle because I remember you talking about this maybe when we at the very start of the podcast or before.
It's just a game that I've I don't know. I started playing a while back, and then I got to a certain point, and then I just sort of had a break, and now I've just jumped back on again because I feel like it.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. You haven't actually played a Fallout game before, have you?
Never played a Fallout game. No.
You should jump on. It's an online game.
I heard that Fallout 76 was quite bad when it released.
Yeah, well, I mean, what game isn't bad when they release these days? Honestly, any game that there's any amount of hype behind, I'm like, yep, it's going to be buggy when it comes out, so I'll wait 6 months before I play it.
You do have a point there. Because I was going to say Skyrim or something that came out 2011 or 2012, nothing.
And it's buggy, and no one's fixed them. They're just bugs that make the game better.
yeah, make it more entertaining. Yeah, I might actually take you up on that. I might have to.
Yeah. What have you been playing?
I haven't been playing much. I mean, I've been away, so I've been using that travel time to watch a whole lot of movies.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, what have you been watching then?
Okay, here's a quick fire round of what I've been watching.
Got a list?
Yeah. Well,
You've written it down?
I do have a Letterboxd account.
Right. That.
You have one as well, don't
you?
Yeah. I watched Old, the new M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Any good?
At the movies. I liked it. It was pretty cheesy, in the vein of The Happening, which I know that you've seen.
Yeah. That's kind of an average movie,
it's kind of average, but this one had really cool concept.
Oh, yeah? Well,
it actually did it really well. Well, I guess everyone kind of knows the concept was that people show up on a beach in the middle of nowhere on vacation, and it's supposed to be this private, pristine-looking, nice place to spend their day. Then they find out that the beach is slowly making them all age.
Right. Okay.
And they can't escape from.
So basically every beach. Slowly makes you age.
Yeah, just
slowly
spit
burning-
up a bit more than usual
burning your
beaches.
skin off.
I
I think basically anywhere slowly makes you age.
that is true. I guess slowly isn't the right. It makes you age very fastly.
Okay.
Um,
Is fastly a word? Sorry.
Probably not. It's been a week. Very fast. I don't know, but it was good. Had the old usual twists and turns, but very well done this time, I thought. Pretty scary. Acting wasn't great, but I enjoyed myself. I also watched Psycho Gorman and The Void, which are two horrors I've been meaning to watch for a while, directed by the same
Or was
guy.
that two different horror movies then? Like what you said?
Yeah, Psycho Gorman is a horror movie and The Void
Okay,
is a
I
horror movie.
thought there was one title.
Psycho Gorman, The Void.
The Void. Like, sounds interesting.
They were both directed by Stephen Kostansky. Psycho Gorman is about like this evil alien that gets trapped on Earth, and this little girl learns how to control him, and then all his enemies from all over the universe are all coming to try and kill him.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like all these creatures and monsters are all on like Power Rangers-esque costumes and like real over the top, like cheesy ass fight scenes. It was really cool. And
That's a horror movie.
Yeah, it's more of like a comedy.
Okay.
But yeah, and The Void was kind of about this cult that are trying to like make a portal to a different dimension in the bottom of this old hospital.
Oh, yeah.
But I enjoyed that as well. And then very recently, I watched The Godfather, which I'd never seen. And
Really?
I don't know why I've never seen The Godfather, because
I've
everywhere
never seen
says
it
it's...
either.
Yeah.
I don't
not a lot
know
of people
what
have. And it's heralded as like the best movie of all time.
Yeah.
Um,
Is it?
I
I know
liked
it's
it.
one of the best. Or at least it's, yeah.
Yeah, people, like the usual three you'll see on lists are like The Godfather...
Titanic.
Is Titanic?
Well,
Maybe,
actually,
probably.
no. I think it's grossing. That's
Yeah,
like how
that's
much
top
money
grossing.
they've made. But I think Titanic will be up there.
Yeah, I usually see like the likes of The Shawshank Redemption and
Oh yeah.
Goodfellas. Like, yeah, but I enjoyed it. It's quite dated now.
Yeah.
Like, just it does seem quite
Wait,
old.
what was the third one you mentioned that you see?
Goodfellas.
No idea what that is.
You've never heard of Goodfellas?
No.
How many Martin Scorsese movies have you seen?
Okay, remember I'm bad with names. What does he do again? I feel like I recognize the name.
He did
I probably should.
Mean Streets,
Okay.
Casino,
Okay.
The Departed,
Okay.
Shutter Island.
There we go. That's the first one you've said that I recognize.
Yeah, I mean he's done so. He's one of the
Maybe
like
I
he's
don't
one of
know.
the like most
Maybe
famous
it's just
directors
not in
of
the
all time.
like the.
A lot of gangster movies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so what do you?
Shutter Island is a gangster movie, is it? No,
Uh,
it isn't. Is it?
I can't remember. It kind of is. It's in that like period. No, I guess it's not a gangster movie. He's a very good director. You should see more of his stuff. But all three of those that I mentioned, I've seen, and I don't really think they're like the best of the best. I wouldn't say they're my favorite movies, but they're all very good. And the craft and how they were made, and the production value and acting.
Pulp Fiction.
Great.
Would that be up there?
Pulp Fiction is
It'd be probably.
yeah, probably. And you've seen Pulp Fiction.
That's like. I just want to mention a movie
You
that
just
I've
want to
seen,
mention
so I can be like,
yeah, Pulp Fiction. Yeah.
I'm cool. I know movies. I think it's just the that kind of. I don't know what it is, but it's that vein of movies or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's just I just never really watched many, if any of them.
They're all I mean,
Whereas there's a bunch of other random movies I know all sorts
Yeah.
of stuff about, which
and to be honest, all these are probably like lost on the majority of people. Like I only have watched most of them because I've actively sought them out and be like, okay, this guy's supposed to be good. I'm gonna watch all this stuff.
yeah.
But it's interesting. But Godfather,
Yeah, because you kind of
very
watch
good.
through based on directors, don't you? Often.
Yeah, totally.
Whereas I go through based on like I guess more so on the story rather than
You
I
just
guess.
look for stories that kind of gel with you. And
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess.
Whereas I find myself watching the most random.
Sometimes it will be actors. If there's like an actor I really like, I'll
Yeah.
watch something of theirs. But even then, there's not really any actors that I'll go through and watch all of their.
Yeah, and majority actors seem to have hit or miss movies sometimes.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, I do find myself like sitting down. Like I know of Quentin Tarantino, I sat down and watched all his stuff in a go. Martin Scorsese did the same. I do it quite a lot. At the moment, I'm still working through not a director, but Nick Cage's movies.
No, yeah, of course. That's an actor I want to go through.
It's worth it, dude. I'm looking forward to Pig, coming out I think next week here in New Zealand.
Oh yeah,
So,
next week.
Good. I think so. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to watch it.
And the other
It's got quite good reviews, hasn't it?
really good reviews. Yeah, people are raving about Pig and The Green Knight.
Is that
Both of them haven't come out in New Zealand yet, but I'm hanging out for them.
who directs The Green Knight?
David Lowery.
Oh, okay.
David Lowery? Yeah. And then I watched a movie called Phantom of the Paradise. It's a 70s like psychedelic horror musical based on Phantom of the Opera, but about like a rock opera that's going on, and a guy's made a deal with the devil to never age, and he's like stealing the songs of a young songwriter, and like it's crazy movie. Loved it. That's been me. I tend to watch a lot of movies when I'm away, because I either go and seek out ones that are showing at small cinemas, as I've said before, or I just buy an early dinner, head to the hotel room and chuck on a couple movies. But yeah.
Hey, so what have I been watching?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm asking like all the questions for both of us. I don't know why.
Go for it. I've got a headache. I'm not.
Yeah.
What have you been watching?
Okay, so let's see. I watched because some of my family was up, so I was hanging out with them most of the weekend, and we watched Pet Sematary.
The original or the new one?
The new one.
I've only seen the new one, and I didn't love it.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
It's about the Wendigo, right?
No, it mentions the Wendigo.
And you see like a couple shots of the Wendigo near the cemetery or something.
No, I think they just. I'm pretty sure. Maybe I don't know. If it did, I missed it. But I'm pretty sure they just mentioned the Wendigo because it was based off of like old like American Indian mythology kind of. Is that the right term?
Yeah,
mythology. Yeah, kind of stuff. And the Wendigo was part of it. Yeah. So, I think it was sort of like in the same vein. I think, and I remember at one point they were like showing through a book based, like talking about the history of the place, and the Wendigo was brought up, and there was like a picture of it.
Yeah. I'm meaning to watch the original.
Yeah.
It's not a Stephen King movie, eh? Like it's a Stephen King story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't like it. Its ending was horrible. I don't know.
Yeah.
They should have just killed the cat like ages ago.
Yeah.
Gosh. Also, fun fact, that I kind of learned watching this is that I feel like maybe we've talked about this. I don't know. Maybe. And I just didn't soak in or whatever. But apparently a lot of Stephen King's books and stories are based in the same town.
Yeah, man.
Is it Derry?
Oh, not the same town, but the same world, and they all reference each other. So Derry.
No, but apparently a lot of his stories are based in the same town as well.
I don't know, because there's a town called Castle Rock.
Yeah.
Which I know a few of them are based in. I think Derry's where it's based.
And it's also where this is.
No, I think in Pet Sematary, if I remember right, there's a scene of a signpost going to Derry.
Yeah.
And people are driving to Derry, but it's not the town that they're in. And I think like
either way, I feel like we talk way too much about
Stephen King is just invading our podcast.
Because for like, I don't know, because seeing as like I don't really like a lot of his stories.
You don't like Stephen King?
I don't know. I feel like I probably should sit down and read some of his books, but from what I've heard, I wouldn't enjoy them. I don't know.
They're supposed to be awesome books. My dad's a massive fan, but things I have heard, they tend to go a bit darker than the movies in some instances.
But also, I don't know what it is, but I feel like, and this is just me. This is just me. Okay, being overly pedantic and just unreasonable and completely. But I don't know, when I hear about an author who writes as many books and stories and stuff that he does, and so many of them get movie adaptations, as many as he does, I start to wonder, like I start to feel like his stories aren't as that special, you know? I don't know what it is. I think it's I think it's more the fact that I'm like, if he's writing that many, he can't be putting that much, like, I don't know. This is where it gets kind of cheesy, but that much like passion into it or whatever. He can't be like, it starts to feel like he's probably just it feels almost more like sellout kind of thing. Like it's just he's just trying to pump out as many books as he can to get as many movie adaptations as he can.
Well, some people are just prolific though in their work. Like,
so that's probably what it is. He's probably just extremely talented and very, like, a lot of the stories are probably just very easily adapted.
Yeah.
But it's just whenever I hear, I don't know, I start thinking about like those authors that write those romance stories, and they write like, I don't know, however many they do in a year, and they're just like this probably the same story, almost the exact same like cover and stuff. I don't know. I've heard, it's just like that's where my mind goes, and I'm just like, if he's writing that many, they can't be that good. So like,
well, I don't know if I have seen a movie based on his works that I haven't liked. Like,
well, I mean, I've seen a lot that there's been basically every one of his movies movies that have been based off his adaptation. They're either I like them and he has critiquing of the movie,
like Shining,
or I have serious critiquing of some part of the movie.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
I'm struggling to like name Stephen King things that I love, but yeah, Shining, Doctor Sleep. I like It.
I like the old It, and I don't think I liked
the first remake.
I did. Yeah, I mean, it was okay, but I don't know. I felt like the movie kind of, to me, it just sort of lost something.
Yeah.
When I was watching through it 1 and 2, but
Carrie's really good.
Excuse me, but what was that?
Have you seen Carrie?
Don't think I have.
The girl with telekinesis that gets like blood dropped on her at the school dance and goes crazy. John Travolta's in it. It's a good movie.
I feel like I've heard of that, but I don't think I've seen it.
I bought the book after watching it, and I'm yet to read it, but I need to.
Oh, yeah.
And then he's also done Christine. I think he wrote Christine about an evil car, and the movie was directed by John Carpenter. Another fan of ours another filmmaker we're a fan of on the podcast.
Fan of ours, yeah.
Fan of ours, yeah.
Just another fan of ours.
Another fan of Colic Daddy. No, we're pretty much the John Carpenter and Stephen King podcast, and we're well aware of it. But we'll own it. What else have you been watching?
Well, I just felt like I needed.
You hate Stephen King, we get it.
I don't know what it is. I think it's just me, as purely me being petty and judging someone and their work and their motives for their work based purely off of a few times I've seen him talking and just other like reports I've heard of his work and stuff.
Yeah.
I do know that I need to go and actually read one of his books. I've heard some things about some of his books that I know I won't want to read. But
yeah.
But I do know that I need to go back through, if not for anything other than just being able to feel better about myself, not liking him. Well, not liking him, not liking his work as much.
Yeah,
I don't know. I feel So I do realize I'm being super unreasonable there. So yeah.
Well, I mean, I kind of get where you're coming from. He's not my. I think he's got some real cool ideas.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But he's supposed to be an awesome. I can't really say anything. I haven't read any of his books, but some things I don't really love about his stuff.
I think the thing is most of the stuff that, when I say most of them, what I'm more thinking of is like the old, Shining, not Doctor Sleep, and the old It.
Yeah.
I really like those. The old It I knew was definitely not a masterpiece.
Yeah.
I more liked it because of the actor they picked to play It.
Tim Curry is a good Pennywise, yeah.
And it was kind of creepy, but I like horror movies from that time, period, and that kind of feel. But anything else of his that I've seen, really, especially newer ones, have just kind of fallen flat to me. It's just sort of been like it seems like a good concept or a good idea, but then at the same time, it kind of just feels like it's, I don't know, it's like an interesting concept, with like I don't know, just a real flat ending.
Yeah.
Except for like I don't know, I know The Shining is really good. Like as far as the movie, which he didn't like.
Yeah.
But then most of everything else, it's just been sort of I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
Anyway.
I definitely need to read his book because I mean, we're picking apart the biggest horror writer of our time right now, but
pretty much, yeah. And we have
read any
no
of what
right
he's written.
to, but seeing as we haven't, neither of us have read any of his work.
It's probably tainted us as well with a lot of his new a lot of the new movies based off his works are all like Netflix exclusives and aren't the best. But yeah, it's definitely something I want to do. I want to read a Stephen King book. I think I'll try to read The Shining this year.
I think to say it a little bit better.
Yeah.
I don't. If I hear about an author that it feels like they either have a reputation for or it feels like they write purely for their books to become movie adaptations, I start to not like them as an author. If you know what I mean.
It seems like
I've heard of some people. I've heard of a particular author anyway, and I can't remember who it was. It might even be Stephen King, but I'd say it's not. Who wrote their story in such a way deliberately to make it easier for it to be moved into changed into a movie, like have a movie adaptation. Like that was their whole purpose. They wrote this book for it to be a movie.
I know that's something he has done. Like he does seem to like people making movies of his stuff because he released a whole lot of his books. He gave away the rights to a whole lot of his books. It was just like, hey, any up and coming filmmakers, if you want to have a go and try and make movies of these things, you can do it for free.
Really?
Yeah, and people have done it. Like heaps of young for filmmakers and film school students have taken these writings, written scripts, and made movies. None of them are super well known, but it seems like he does want to encourage people.
Yeah,
I guess, and I kind of see it as a cool thing.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's interesting if you.
But
did do that.
But at the same time, it does kind of feel like it's like a what do you call it? Numbers over quality kind of effort. You know, if you're wanting to be known for an author, if you're wanting to be known, or any I guess any creative person, you know, like an author or a director or whatever, like I feel like there's like two ways you could go about it. This is me not knowing anything about this, you know, really not being knowing what I'm talking about. But just from my understanding or viewing of it, I see there as being two ways of going about making your mark. And one is either you focus on quality and you put out very few, whatever you're doing, books or movies, and focus on making them the best possible things you could possibly make, or you focus purely on the amount of things you're putting out there, because eventually people are going to see you and they're going to read your book or they're going to watch your movie because you've got like 50 of them out already, you know.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I feel like that's kind of the strategy of what's his name? Cage.
Nicolas Cage.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's in like basically
he's in like 5 or 6 movies a year, and
I know.
It is probably only one good one a year, but
if that. But then there's like he's really well known.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't know, it works.
Yeah. It does.
But anyway, that's my ramble over. I watched that movie. I also watched I feel like I watched another movie, but I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was just that.
Just back to Stephen King for 1 second.
Oh, dang it.
He wrote an X-Files episode called Chinga in season 5.
Was it any good?
About an evil doll. It's actually really, really good. It's like it's a Scully standalone episode.
No, yeah.
But let me know when you get up to that.
Okay.
Today, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be touching on one of our suggestions, I think, that we got when we started the show. I can't even remember who sent it in, but someone wanted us to talk about our personal collections over the years, or things that we've collected. Or I guess hobbies of ours that we might have gone a bit over the top on. And I feel like this has been directed mainly at me.
Yeah. Probably, because you've got how many different things you could pull up that you've been collecting or have collected in the past?
Sucker for a collection. I think I get it from my dad because it's an inside joke in the family. Now that I'm going to let you everyone else listening in on my inside joke with my dad, but we tease him all the time for going through phases. Because he'll get really into something. For instance, he got really into like unicycling for ages, and learned how to unicycle, bought all these unicycles, and then within like 3 or 4 months, he sells it all. He decides he wants to get into learning the banjo, so he buys all this nice banjo gear and learns how to play the banjo.
Yeah.
And then he sells it all, then decides he wants to get into like painting model tanks and stuff. And it's seriously gone on for like my whole life. And I've always made fun of it, but on looking back now, I'm kind of becoming the same thing. Maybe I hang on to my hobbies a little longer, but let's see how I get when I'm his age.
Also, from my experience, seeing you going through all the different collections you've had, which isn't as many now, comparing it to your fine example there. It seems like I would say that you seem a bit more reluctant to give up your hobby or your collections rather.
Yeah, well,
like you do it out of necessity or because you've just sort of realized that you've reached the peak. And you have to...
Well, I shoot myself in the foot as well because with every collection or thing I just try to collect, I always I'm a perfectionist, so I'm like, I'm missing this one. I need this one.
Yeah.
And then I pay heaps of money and get it.
Is that perfectionist or is that just OCD?
A completionist. That's the right word.
Okay.
So I get into board games or board games is a fine example. I guess I'll bring it up soon, but I got. Oh, we'll bring it up soon. Well, how do we do this? Should we just?
It's interesting though that you're talking about this because I've got to complete it and then move on to another thing.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like I'm like the opposite.
Really?
I start lots of things, and I will hold on to them, and I won't ever complete them, and then I will jump back to them when I feel inspired, and then So if I ever got into for instance, if I ever was to get into, just as an example, into model painting or something, I wouldn't get all of the things I would need. I would only get some of them. I would start to work up a bit of a space or all the tools and things I would need. Start it off, and then I probably wouldn't touch it for 6 months, and then I might come back and do one little thing, and then I'll leave it again, and then I'll probably come back, and then maybe add in a few more things that...
We are very opposite in that regard, because I know, I didn't even have mini painting on my list, but both of us were painting D&D minis for a little bit.
Yeah.
And before we even did it, I was like, okay, I need these primers, I need these colours, I'm going to need everything, all these different minis I'm going to work my way up to doing, I'm going to have everything set. And then we did it a couple days, and I haven't done mini painting since, and I ended up, I think that's all still at your house in a cupboard or something.
I've got it. I'm holding on to it.
I'd probably go way over top in more than collecting areas in my life, but
whereas for me, I think I prefer to be I'll get the cheap nasty stuff, I would get the cheap nasty paints and the paint brushes and stuff, or I'd get very few of them, just whatever I would need, and then if I got good at it, or was this is definitely something I want to continue doing, that's when I would start slowly trickling in things.
Yeah.
But often that never happens. I don't get good at it. I find something else to move on to. So I think the phase thing is probably a fairly common thing. It's just whether or not you go all in, or you just sort of
just go a little bit in.
Yeah. Which almost could be a better thing, going all in though, because then you just sell it off, and you've got a clean slate. You start the next thing. Whereas for me, I've probably got heaps of junk collected up, little bits and pieces.
Not enough to sell.
Nothing worth selling. Nothing, and So I don't know. Yeah,
that's funny. I guess I'll just go through. How many collections can you name off the top of your head?
Well, I think
I got 4 maybe 5 or 6 big ones.
I don't know. I'm coming up with more and more as we're talking.
Okay,
but I've gotten to 2, so I can't say I'm coming up with more and more. But I am. Yeah, I don't know. I'm still pondering it.
Okay,
I've got at least 2.
Yeah.
One of them's a bit of a joke, but
great. So you got a proper one collection.
Kind of a proper collection. I've never been much into collecting, as we've talked about before.
Yeah.
I've always liked the idea of collecting, but I never
It's an
either I
expensive
either never
hobby as
had
well.
yeah I never had the knowledge of what to collect
Yeah.
or the funding to
Yeah,
collect
yeah,
something.
yeah.
But like I think I'll exclude various things. Like I remember being a kid trying to collect like rugby cards from the Weet-Bix containers and stuff.
Those I had heaps of those as well.
I remember trying to collect some of those, but the thing is because it's like a promotional thing, it would end after a while, and we never went through that much
Yeah.
Weet-Bix to be able to get. Yeah, and it's just
Yeah.
like after that, it's just like,
Yeah.
there's never any kind of like there wasn't, well, for me anyway, there wasn't anyone who was collecting them to trade with or anything like that. There was none of that kind of stuff going on. So it's just like, I have rugby cards now. They're also real cheap and nasty and
Yeah.
made out of like paper or something.
People were trading them like crazy at school. I think for like money and stuff as well.
Really?
They probably fueled my like why I collect things now because we went through so many just small things at school, like rugby trading cards, Go-Go's Crazy Bones, which were like little knuckle bone figures. I can't even. What are some of these things? I'm trying to Mighty Beans. I think we just these stupid little toys. Bakugan. I think were
Oh yeah.
like you roll these balls and they turn into monsters.
I watched the show as a kid,
Yeah,
but I never.
everyone at
I
school
would have
get
loved to have
Yeah,
gotten
man.
into that, but I never. Yeah.
everyone would fully get into these at schools.
That's
And
what happens when you're homeschooled. Though, I think
You just
it's just
collect
like,
things up yourself and you're just like, oh, that's it.
okay, I thought of the third one.
Okay.
Now. I thought of the third one.
Should I? Okay, one of my first proper collections
Yeah.
was comic books, which I've talked about before in our second episode, I think. What's the issue? We talked about comics and mangas and which ones we loved. But I got into comic books from a young age, specifically Marvel comics, just because I grew up just when I was way too young, probably not even at school. I'd go to the library and get out all these massive volumes of old Marvel comics, black and white, and I just loved them. And I think my dad bought me a couple, then I just would stay on the lookout for them. And for the first like 10 or so years growing up, I just collected comics. I'd buy them online whenever we'd be traveling around. I'd look up for comics shops and buy a couple. Garage sales, which is a thing here in New Zealand. It's probably the same as a yard sale overseas. But I'll just always be picking up these comics. And then I ended up getting, you probably remember it from my old place, it had like this big, I can't even remember what it was, but like this metal bookcase type thing that I think must have been used somewhere for like in a workplace. People, I guess, you stack your forms in it and you're ready for pick up people's mailboxes. You have your name underneath your little section. But I just kept all my comic books in this massive thing that took up a lot of space in my room.
Yeah.
And
You almost had it full as well.
yeah,
didn't
man,
you?
a whole ton of different collections, but I loved it.
Did that sell very well? Like,
I don't think they sell amazingly well, but they're not. I never bought like any of the real rare, expensive comics.
yeah.
So I only had. I mean, I had some like cool collections. Some like little known ones as well, like Rom Space Knight. Don't know if you've ever heard of Rom,
No.
but it's kind of like a Hasbro toy that was made into a Marvel comic series about this dude in space, this robot that fights all these aliens, and it crosses over with like all these different Marvel comics characters as well. But I had like nearly maybe the first 60 or so issues. I think my granddad got those for me from somewhere. But I just had all these random little sets that were nearly mostly finished, but none that was super rare. And I don't think I made my money back on them. But again, none of them were super expensive to begin with. So.
Yeah. I'm a bit gutted that you sold them.
Me too. I honestly, that's the thing probably out of all my collections I've had, that's probably the thing I kick myself the most for selling.
Yeah.
Because that'd be pretty cool to still have those things. The second one was kind of probably off the back of that. Still at school, I started, this isn't a big collection, but I started just buying old paperbacks of Dragonlance books. I think we've talked about on this podcast before as well, but like D&D, fantasy books, Dragonlance, Ravenloft.
I forgot about that. You were kind of collecting them,
I
weren't
had
you?
about 30, maybe all up.
Really? I don't remember them.
I still have a few here. I think I gave a few to you.
Yeah, I have a
and
few
I
of them.
gave a few to different bookshops. But it's whenever I'd find a Dragonlance book, which are quite rare.
You did get a lot from the library, though, when they went through a phase of getting rid of them.
Yeah, they're phasing out the old books, and I'd just pick them up for like $1 each or something.
I remember I had some. I collected a bunch from the library that were like hardbacks, so they were a little bit better, I think.
Yeah.
Forgotten Realms.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Books, and I don't remember what I've done with them, but I remember having them for a while. But yeah, I was trying to collect up a lot of those ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're not like super popular, but you do find them in like the most random places.
There are a lot of them as well.
A couple in each bookshop. Yeah, there's heaps.
Surprising.
And I didn't really. Yeah, I still have a couple, and it's kind of come full circle because I've slowly been making my way through the Ravenloft series. I've been making my way through it, but I've only read the first 3 books. They're all real cool gothic horror, really cheesy and campy, but I just love them nonetheless. And there's one that you can't get on Kindle, which is where I'm reading a lot of them now. So I purchased it from Amazon. So that showed up the other day, and I'm reading through that.
Your Kindle is probably a very good investment for you.
That's probably saved me a bit of money with all these. I've actually put a whole lot of comics on there as well. So
yeah,
there we go. Can't sell those ones. What's your number one?
What do you mean by number one? Like biggest or like just the first one?
Yeah. What's the first one you can remember?
Well, the first one I remembered anyway, which was it's not really a collection, but it was something I decided I wanted to start collecting, which I guess you can't really call it a collection because it's not one specific thing. It's not like a brand thing.
It's still a collection.
But as a kid, very little kid, I was trying to collect little like plastic dinosaurs. I was really into my dinosaurs, and I had like. It sounds really silly because I was like, I mean it when I say I was a kid.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
I wasn't like
13, 14.
Yeah, I was probably like, I don't know, 8 or 9 or something. But yeah, I remember I don't know how it started, but I just had a few of these plastic dinosaurs, and I remember, and they were good quality ones. You know how you buy you don't buy them now because you're but you can go. Nice. You see them every now and then, like just at like $2 stores or something. If you ever pop into one, they'll have these huge, or Kmart. Yeah, they have these huge bags full of like plastic animals or whatever, and they're all like real crappy quality. Yeah, these were good quality dinosaurs.
Yeah, I think I must have had a couple when I was a kid.
And it wasn't really just dinosaurs. It was like a specific. I think it was more around a specific period. Because I remember having. You know those ones, if you watch Ice Age, I don't know what they're called, but they kind of have, they almost look like a camel. They're sort of in the same sort of size and build as a camel, except for they don't have the humps. And they've got like a weird like little small elephant trunk.
I remember that off Ice Age, and I have no clue what it is. Yeah.
I think in Ice Age they're a lot shorter, but the ones I had, they almost look like some kind of camel or like a... that kind of thing as well. So it was like extinct animals, essentially. Yeah. I collected figurines. I'll call them figurines because plastic toys just doesn't... Figurines? Figurines would work, eh?
Yeah,
kinda. Yep. Loosely.
Figurines.
Of extinct animals. And I used to try and collect them. I didn't get a very big collection, but I did remember, like, getting to the point where it had sort of grown from just having 1 or 2 toys to suddenly I've actually got a few of these, and then being like, you know what, I want to collect these. Like, I want to get heaps of these.
Nice.
Like, and so anytime I saw like some, I would try and get them. But I didn't have a lot of pocket money growing up, so that collection kind of died out, and then I got after a while I just got to an age where I was just like, that's kind of stupid. Yeah. So, but if I really if I had the funding as an 8-year-old or whatever, that collection would have boomed. You know, that would have gotten big.
I wonder where they are now. Could be like a Toy Story-esque.
Probably in a sandpit somewhere.
Okay, maybe not Toy Story.
I do remember a few of them got mangled by dogs.
I had one or two toy dinosaurs when I was young, and I remember one that I loved. I brought it to school and would like show it off to people every now and again.
Yeah.
And someone at school that I didn't really know asked if they could borrow it one day.
Never lend a toy out to
I
someone.
don't know what I was thinking. It's like a 5 or 6 year old, but I lended it to him. And then he came back the next day and he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I fell down the slope and it must have fallen out of my bag and I wasn't able to find it. And I'm so sorry." I was just like, what kind of story is this? What? I just knew for like the rest of schooling. I was like, that kid stole my dinosaur. I still know who he is. I should call him up.
The pride of your 5-year-old life.
That would have been the start of my dinosaur collection, but I was robbed from it.
The dinosaur you brought to school to show off to
Yes,
people
man.
every now and again.
Yeah.
What the heck is that kid thinking?
I'll give him a call after this episode. I'll confront him finally about his lie.
Or was it Philip, was it?
No, it's not Philip. It's not Philip, one of our listeners. Another collection I had wasn't another big one, but I was really into Game of Thrones. I still love Game of Thrones, but started reading the book. Never finished it, but around the time as I was watching the show, started reading this book, I was like, hey, there's a Game of Thrones trading card game that everyone loves. So I bought the first couple of decks for it, and I was like, man, these are cool. So I bought like sleeves, I sleeved these all up, and then I think a sale went on for the rest of the decks, and slowly, I don't know how it happened, but over the course of a year, I had every single like proper deck and a couple of the boosters for this.
I never knew that you
Game of
got
Thrones.
these.
Yeah, man, Game of Thrones trading card game, and no one in my family's into Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
No one ever wanted to play with me. They were just like, why would I want to play that?
Yeah.
No one. I just had no one to play with. I probably asked you.
I don't recall that at all, though. This is all new.
Really,
to me.
I'm surprised it was, because I had like boxes in my room, but I think the one person, speaking of Philip again, that ever played with me was Philip when he came up once, and I only played a couple games with him, and then I sold.
Was it fun though?
It was all right. It was okay. Not worth
After getting
everything
all
I
of
put into
them.
it. Yeah, but I made my money back on that one, I think. So
Okay.
not the end of the world. Probably the other two big, massive, the biggest collections. Should I save those? Do you want to go with
because
your other
I've
one?
also thought of another one.
Okay, you go.
Well, actually, the next one I'm just going through by. I think I'll go through.
Is this
from
the joke one?
From like no.
Okay.
From like childhood, up and
Yeah. The boyhood of your collection. Yeah.
Was marbles.
I had marbles
Growing
when I
up.
was a kid.
Yeah. But I remember that was the one thing, just thinking about, like, we were talking about trading and stuff, that we actually did a bit of trading in, because pretty much all of my siblings had a marble collection.
Yeah.
And we were a fairly big family, so there was a fair amount of trading going on there, and a little bit of gambling.
Would you do the game when you had to like line up your marbles and you'd flick them and try and hit other people's marbles and you could keep their marble if you?
I think often what we would do from memory, at least when I was old enough to start playing, was we would have, because we used to have these, we'd have a whole array of different size marbles. Normally you have like those normal size, I don't really know how to describe how big they are, but you get bigger ones and you can get tiny little ones, but we'd normally have the normal and some of the big ones. You had a pretty cool collection if you had some of the big ones. And we had all these different colouring ones that in our pool altogether, our family's pool of marbles, there were some that were rare and there were some that weren't. And we sort of have this whole like little, like, what do you call that? Like, because if you were to go out into like a public school, that was probably some of the rare ones that for us that were rare were probably very common. I don't know. But for us they were rare because we didn't have that. You know, so there were like so there were various ones that were like really sought after. It was like, oh, that's a really cool one. Especially the ones that had little speckles in them. They're like a dark color with like little weird, like I don't know, some like neon-almost looking specks in it or something. It was.
I wonder if it's still a thing. Like, I wonder if marble collecting is still a thing, or if like
maybe
rare marbles are actually. I don't know.
I don't think that
worth anything.
I don't think there is such a thing as like a rare marble.
Look it up on the marble trading website and see what the price for this one is.
I think it's just in our family there were rare ones. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Anyway, but what we would do is often we'd have the big ones, and you'd throw out a big one out in the middle of like a concrete area or whatever, and or if you're playing it real tough, you'd have it out in a grassy patch.
Yeah.
But and then you would all be trying to flick your marble and try and hit the big one.
Yeah.
And I think whoever got the closest, we'd have it like quite a distance away. I think whoever got the closest would win, or anyone who hit it would win. But I think there were some more rules to it. I think if you hit it into someone else's, it was like something else. I don't know, I can't remember. But I think if I'm pretty sure that was the main one we played, and I think it was winner takes all, essentially. So if you shot out a marble out there was a chance it was not going to come back to you.
Oh, yeah.
But that was kind of a bit like, because there were some people who didn't like losing their marbles, and so it was like, so they lost their marbles at the end,
Yeah.
Nah, so so we wouldn't always play like that. But I do remember, like, that was, most of us, that was like kind of like how we wanted to play it anyway. We wanted to play winner takes all, but sometimes our parents wouldn't let us because, someone would throw a hissy fit because they lost their marble.
I had the same kind of experience. I think me and all my siblings had the same little collections.
Yeah.
It's funny.
I think sometimes we'd play with like a real small marble as well. You'd have to try and hit that one. And it was like...
And is it the closest to it gets everyone else's?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so that's one of the collections.
Nice. Well, my final two. Should I just do my final two?
Well, I've got two more.
Flip. Okay, cool. Well, one of my big ones, probably the one that all my friends knew me for, was my pop vinyl collection.
Yes.
And I know
I helped fuel that.
You did. All my friends helped like make half the collection, to be honest.
It was such an easy thing. Every year it was like for Christmas or your birthday or whatever. It was just like, what am I going to get him? Oh, okay, I'll just have a look at his pop vinyl collection, see what he hasn't got, and then buy him one that he doesn't have.
Yeah. So
obviously in a movie or whatever that you like and can appreciate, but it got harder and harder each year though because you
slowly finish those collections. Yeah, it kind of got out of control. I think when they first released, we've talked about Armageddon Expo, our like Comic-Con equivalent here in New Zealand.
Yeah.
When they first came out, they were a massive thing there, and I picked up a couple. I think I got like James Kirk from Star Trek, and I got Finn from Adventure Time. And then slowly, I would just pick up more and more every Armageddon. I'd ask people to get them for me. I'd start collecting different lines. I really love the horror line of characters, of horror movies, and love the Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones lines. And it's hard because you try and like collect. It's a money-making scheme. I'm fully aware of it now for Funko because you try and collect the first wave they put out.
Yeah.
And if you do that, then they start releasing variants and like special edition ones and like Comic-Con exclusive variants, and then the next wave comes out and then they start remaking ones from the previous wave and doing like 10 different types of Jon Snow. So it's kind of like you're never going to complete your collection.
Nah.
So it's like I always had like little half. I started, I was so stoked I had the set, but then it just gets
bigger and bigger
and then not maintainable at all.
Yeah. I remember trying to, before you started, not before you started collecting it.
Yeah.
But before you started your Lord of the Rings collection, I started trying to do it. So I was like, I think because I kind of got into it mainly because of you, I think. But I started like, I'll grab a few that, just like basically characters that I liked or for movies that I liked or whatever.
Yeah.
I remember, I think the first one I got was the, I still have all mine, by the way, which I don't have a lot. That's why I've still got them.
But that's a cool like collection size, I think.
What I have.
Yeah. I've still got, I think 10 or 15 of the horror ones. I just like collecting horror icons.
Yeah. Well, like I have Balrog from Lord of the Rings.
You had like a special edition glow in the dark Balrog too, eh?
Yeah.
Look at that. I was always jealous of that one.
Yeah, because you just had plain old Balrog.
Plain old Balrog, yeah.
That's right. That's what I was saying. I was starting to collect that before you,
Yeah.
and I thought, oh yeah, I'll get this collection, and then and then when I've completed the collection, you probably won't want to get it because someone else will have it, like someone else in your friend circle will have it, and so you'll just leave it, and so I'll be able to collect, because it kind of feels lame collecting collecting ones that someone else already has.
Yeah.
Like someone within your very close friend circle already has.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, he won't do that. And then you ended up getting all of them within like what felt like a couple of weeks. I was like really slowly trying to build it up, and then suddenly I went around to your house and you had all of them, and I was just like, what?
I think the whole like first wave was on sale one day, and I was just like, oh, I could just do
I think you bought it all in one go.
Yeah.
Which to me kind of takes away from the point of it. You're meant to just sort of like, oh, that one.
Yeah.
You find the little one that you've been missing, or you slowly collect it up rather than just like sweeping them up like big, like,
Yeah, and I wasn't to the point that like, I know people, I think they're called like flippers now, but people, as soon as like a rerun releases, they'll just buy as many copies as they can and then like resell them on.
Yeah.
But I didn't never got to the point like that, but I would get to the point that like, I know this release of a movie I really like's coming out, so I just pre-order the set.
Yeah. Whereas I think for me, I never cared about like finishing a set so much.
You just wanted some cool characters.
Yeah, I just was I would see often. I'd be like, oh, like for the Lord of the Rings one, I'd be like, I want this particular character. He looks so cool. Or like the Ent, I wanted the Ent or whatever.
I think that's the way to go.
I never got the Ent.
You never got the Ent. Christmas is coming up.
Yeah. But yeah, and that's like. And then some of the Hobbits, like I had like one or two of them.
Yeah.
I think I only have one actually. One of the Hobbits.
Yeah.
There's no point, and I was just like, the rest of them they almost look like they could be anyone, from people who don't know if you haven't watched Lord of the Rings, it just like you might be like, what is that?
Yeah.
Whereas like an Ent or Balrog, it sort of stands out.
Pretty
it's
iconic.
It's actually kind of an interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's sort of how I viewed it anyway.
Yeah.
I just got the cool ones.
Honestly, that's the way to go, though. Just getting a couple or just ones that you really like, characters, instead of going for these sets that they just make millions of waves of, and it's just unstoppable. But
I was going to say the first one I got, I think I started saying it, I didn't get to finish.
Yeah.
Was the what's his name from Spider-Man: Homecoming? The villain,
the Vulture.
The Vulture. Yeah.
Ah.
I think it was a little while after we watched Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Yeah.
And if we haven't talked about this on the show yet, the Vulture is probably my favorite villain from any superhero movie.
Really? You really like the Vulture?
Oh, apart from the Joker from
Suicide Squad?
No. Stop it.
From Dark Knight.
Yeah. But to me, I don't really compare those two because I don't know. That's different. That's my.
The Joker from Dark Knight's more like performance, whereas this is more like.
Yeah, I think this is a cool. Yeah, I don't know. I would say that the Joker from the Dark Knight was definitely a better villain.
Yeah,
and yeah, I can't argue with that. It was just I don't know. I feel like he's the perfect Joker, and I'm not just saying that because that was the popular thing to say.
No, it's a very, very good movie.
Other than him, the Vulture would be my favorite superhero villain.
Yeah.
But only the movie adaptation. I'm not saying like
the old school bald, pointy-nosed Joker from pointy-nosed Vulture from the comics.
Yeah, I'm not saying like the
flies
comics
around
and
in his
stuff.
leotard. Yeah.
I'm saying, but anyway, that's why I got him.
Yeah, and he was glow in the dark as well, didn't he?
I think so.
Nice.
I didn't really pick them because they were glow in the dark. I picked them because they were there. I think he was also a bobblehead, which I didn't like.
Yeah,
but
I think all Marvel ones were.
But I think because of his wings, I think it meant his head didn't really bobble that much, which meant he'd look kind of like he wasn't really a bobblehead, which worked.
Yeah.
So
I did end up selling all my pop vinyls, except for the couple that I kept, but it was too much, dude. It was just too much, and you'd always be like looking out for when the next set drops or when the next thing's coming out.
Or just it gets to the point where you just look for anything that you recognize.
Yeah, exactly right.
Sometimes,
and I was just like, nah. and my wedding was coming up, so I sold it all, made a profit, put that into the wedding. So there we go. I mean, I guess I made a profit because a lot of them I didn't buy myself, and they were from friends and family.
But also some of them would have gone up in price.
And something went up in price. The ones that went up the most in price was Kirk from Star Trek and Finn from Adventure Time. But back before I actually started collecting them properly, I would throw away the boxes and just keep them as cool-looking figures.
Yeah.
And that's a no-no when it comes to pop vinyls because they're not worth much at all without the boxes.
Yeah.
So they still were worth more than I bought them for, just standalone, but they would have been worth like hundreds if I had the boxes still.
Yeah. It's such a weird thing with collections, where it's like you have to have the packaging it comes in. It's like...
It's kind of like, because you kind of just want them to look cool, but they're not going to if you need to keep
But
them
I think
the
the thing is most collectors, they don't want to put it out on the shelf. They want to have it in its box.
For selling it for money, I guess, at some point. Or
Yeah,
it's pop vinyls.
What do you call it? It's almost bragging rights. It's not really like...
totally right. So I have this
It's like when someone spends however many thousands of dollars on a Charizard card from Pokemon, and they're never going to use it in game. Obviously, they're never going to be that crazy.
Absolutely,
they'll keep that thing in a safe somewhere.
yeah.
Pull it out every now and then to stroke it and say my precious over it, probably.
Yeah,
but like,
does that lead us into your next one? Was it Pokemon?
No, we talked about this before, and I collected Pokemon cards briefly a few years back, kinda as a joke, but also because I like getting booster packs and opening them. It doesn't have to be Pokemon; it could be any collective card game. I just like opening booster packs. I think a lot of people do. I feel like it's not just me.
It's a good feeling.
I remember going through a phase where I would literally watch YouTube videos of people going through booster packs of Pokemon cards because it was interesting. Or it was just satisfying to watch.
We're nerds, guys. Have you ever figured that out already?
So I briefly went through it. It was kind of put off as a joke, but like, I sort of joke about like, my Pokemon collection. It's really tiny. Like, but at the same time, I did really enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I just pick up a booster every now and I wouldn't buy bulk of anything. I just every now and then I'd buy a single booster from like Kmart if I happened to go through Kmart or something. And that was my collection. And then, that I guess that, what do you call it? That series? No, that, I don't know what you call it. But that print essentially, whatever that collection that they were doing at the time, they ended it and they started another one, and I was like, I want to finish this one. Yeah. So I never finished it. It's not really a collection.
Yeah.
It kind of is, but I don't think it went on long enough for me to, and I don't think I was serious enough about it for me to be able to say it was a collection. Yeah. But I think that combined with my Yu-Gi-Oh card collection can kind of be considered like
trading cards.
Yeah, trading cards in general. I like trading cards in general. It's something that I even today would like, if I was able to, would collect.
Well, I've just gotten back into Magic the Gathering, so.
But Yu-Gi-Oh especially, I know my brothers were into it for a while, and I bought a deck and I tried to. But the thing was, it's always been more about the game rather than the actual cards. Until Pokemon, in which I started like getting into collecting the cards rather than
having your big card folder.
Yeah. But it's not. Yeah, this is kind of a cheat because I didn't really collect them myself, but I do have a decent collection of Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and it was mainly my brother collecting them, mainly to get his. He bought heaps of boosters for a specific set or a deck.
Yeah.
To basically build his deck to make it the best deck he could, and he ended up having this whole binder full of heaps of cards because of
all the boosters
he went through. Yeah,
funny as.
So I've got that, and I've also got that same deck because he eventually just gave up on Yu-Gi-Oh and just gave it to me one year for a birthday present, which I really appreciated.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That would have been back when I was like 13 or 14 or something, probably like 13. But yeah, so those two together, I think I could call that a collection.
Yeah.
which I still have,
Nice. There we go.
but I don't really do anything with it. It's just sitting in the
Do you know how much
back
they're
room
worth?
somewhere.
Do you like?
No idea. I think I have like one card that I know. The thing is with Yu-Gi-Oh, there's like you'll pull out a card and it'll be like super shiny and weird looking, and you think, wow, this must be expensive. You look it up and it's like 50 cents or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like probably an expensive card.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like that would be probably a find, like $1 or something card. You're like, yeah, I've got a card with it. It's kind of the same with Pokemon as well, I think.
Yeah.
But then it's like, but yeah, then you hear about cards that are worth heaps, and it's like, I think the thing is with Pokemon, it's mainly, from what I've seen anyway, it's mainly old cards. Like you have to get like first edition.
I mean, everything kind of just goes up
Yeah.
in price when you're collecting things over time, right?
Yeah. But I'm not entirely sure with Yu-Gi-Oh though. I think I had one or two that I thought might be kind of expensive, but it's, I don't know. There's so much more than just. I feel like there's more than just the cards that you look at as well. You've got to look at like the print, like when, like what wave it was printed in or whatever, what like edition it is, and then specifically what kind of gloss or like foil they use, because it's like there's like certain rarities in them, and like I do know that I have one that my brother collected that has like a very rare foil on it. It's like can't remember what it's called, but it's basically it almost looks like a fingerprint sort of pattern around it, and it's all like foiled, so it's sort of like it's all glossy and reflective, and it's got like little like it's, I don't know what you call it. It's just textured basically, which is meant to be rarer, but it still doesn't mean that it's worth much.
Yeah, a couple dollars more there.
Yeah, but yeah, so that's one of my collections.
Nice. Well, my final one is probably the one that I enjoyed collecting the most. It was my Blu-ray collection, which I collected during, I guess, high school and the first couple of years of working.
You swapped that over to metal cased, like limited edition 4K.
Well, it's kind of that collection aged with, I guess, how physical media is now aged. Because back when I started collecting at Blu-rays, it was still all the range.
Yeah.
So I'll get all my favorite movies in Blu-ray. I'll try to get all the collections. I got to try to get the whole Star Wars. I'd have the Star Wars. I'd have Lord of the Rings. I'd have Quentin Tarantino, because he's one of my favorite directors. I'd have John Carpenter. And then, I guess as time went on, 4Ks came out. So then I'd start upgrading my favorite ones into 4K.
Yeah.
And then when you get really into the like collecting movies, there's these things called steelbooks, which they get artists to do a special one-off design for the cover, and it's like a metal cased Blu-ray copy or 4K copy of that movie.
Yeah.
Some of them are really cool, but there's like different companies that do different steelbooks, and they go up in price depending on where you get it from.
Yeah.
And it's pretty crazy. And then additionally, there's like, I don't know if you've heard of the Criterion collection before.
No, I haven't.
But it's like the top of the top art house movies and popular movies get made into, get re-released by the Criterion collection, and they're a very nice looking case, very expensive, but we just don't have that in New Zealand, and we didn't really have a way to get them, and they wouldn't play, the actual movies wouldn't play on our format that we can play DVDs and movies on over here. So I never really got massively into it, but I had a ton of movies. I'd usually wait till someone was selling them bulk for cheap online and then get them that way. But I had a good collection. And again, I just ended up selling it because I guess physical media started transitioning into digital media.
Yeah.
And it's a lot cheaper. Like I can buy a movie that I love for $3 sometimes on iTunes on sale and have it on my on my account forever. So a lot of my favorite movies I've kind of rebought or slowly amassed on there. And I ended up selling my Blu-ray collection, again making a bit of a profit and putting it towards the wedding. But I still have a couple. Like I still have, I think, the Alien series and the Star Wars series and John Carpenter. I got a few cool John Carpenter steelbooks. There you go. But it's just, digital media is a thing in the past. It's crazy how quickly it's happened. Especially with like video games now as well. Like, it's, no one buys disc games anymore. Crazy. But yeah, that's me, guys. I know I am very compulsive when it comes to collecting things. But I've made a profit with pretty much everything I've collected. And that all went into getting married and and life as it is now as a working man, renting everything. So I still want. I've kind of got this thing inside me that I need to start collecting something else. But don't think I go as hard as I used to.
You gotta feed that little voice in your head.
Yeah. So what was your other one?
This is the joke one.
Oh, okay.
I just thought of it. It's not. I probably shouldn't even say it. Really, it's not. It's not going to be that funny.
You've hyped it up now that
it's going to be super.
This
hilarious.
is the one. This is the end of the podcast. This is the hype.
No, so I fancy myself a bit of a. Well, not really. Since I don't fancy myself anything, but I like doing art. I'm not that great at it. You know this.
Yeah,
I'm not that great at it, but no.
Yeah. I still have some of your art that you drew back in the day. I've still got it.
The one where I signed it wrong.
When you signed it with your name Hamish Sickleton instead of
Oh
Hamish
my goodness, I don't know why I signed it. Oh, I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, I feel like I've always enjoyed art.
Yeah.
So I definitely enjoy it, but it's often something I sort of go through phases where I'll suddenly be really wanting to do art, and I'll just do.
So you got back into it during lockdown, eh?
I think so, yeah, for a bit. But and I'd suddenly start practicing drawing more and stuff. Normally more like sort of comic-y kind of style. It's not like I'm painting
still life.
Watching Bob Ross and painting or something. Yeah, I'm like
characters.
It's more like characters and stuff like that. Concept art, I guess.
Yeah.
Is that a bit of, I don't know. I guess that's sort
character concepts.
Character concepts, yeah. I used to be back in high school. I used to be quite into my anime, so I would try and draw like manga sort of styled. And more recent, I've more done like just general character concepts, sort of.
Yeah.
I have gone through a period of basically. It feels like almost every time I get back into art, I have this desire to buy more art supplies.
Yeah.
So buying new pencils, new coloring supplies and stuff. I want to get some kind of fancy new. I'm often fairly good with self-control in that regard, because I'm like,
is it pretty expensive?
I don't want to buy something and then either not know how to use it, or not know what I'm actually buying, or just never actually get to the point in art where I'll actually be able to use it.
Yeah.
So I have one or two things where I've done that, and I don't really sort of learn from that. I'm like, no, I'm only going to buy it. I'll get to a picture of the point where I'm like, okay, I want to color it in, and I want to use this coloring, so I'll go get it.
Is it pretty expensive for good art supplies?
Fairly, it's not terrible.
Yeah.
I think it depends on what kind of art you're getting into and how much of it you're doing.
And I guess you can't really resell art supplies either, right? Because I guess you're using it too.
But the big thing that is sort of the joke of the thing, I've got a collection of it now, is drawing pads, basically, or drawing. What do you call it?
Notepads.
Not notepads, but what would you call it?
Sketchbooks?
Sketchbooks. There we go.
I think everyone collects sketchbooks.
But do they?
I think it's like a joke that everyone on Earth has unused notebooks and sketchbooks that they've bought.
Notebooks, yes, but this is big, actual.
And you've used a few pages of most of them,
I'll use a quarter of the book or something, and then I'll be I'll suddenly be like, I want to get back into art, and then I'll be like, I don't want to draw in this thing. It's old and it's been sitting around. I don't want to go back through all my old pictures every time I want to draw. I'm like, I want to get another one. Clean slate, start over again.
It's funny, yes.
So, but I don't do that every time. But that is the desire every time. So I have got I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 sketchbooks. That doesn't sound like a lot, but these are big sketchbooks. When I'm not talking about little. I don't know, what do you call it,
they're A1 plus.
Yeah. I'm talking. Yeah, I'm talking about big ones that I can
slap. Yeah.
That have got maybe a a quarter of the book used, and they're just sort of sitting around.
There's some good stuff in those. I need to.
They vary in size as well. I've got some I've got like this real big one, and then I got like a few sort of like decent sized ones that I have got like one that's real small.
If we ever get to the point we're doing giveaways on Collect Town of Everything, grab a page from one of those drawing pads.
One of the blank ones.
Yeah. There you go. That's the way to go.
But yeah, so that's my joke collection at the end. Yeah.
Here we go. Worth it.
Sketchbooks.
Well, that's
and as it fits in with all my other ones, then they never get that big. I don't have that many. It's not that impressive, but
yeah. Whereas I'm
not going to get any money for
yeah.
it.
I'm not making a profit either. But yeah, that was us. That was our collections, guys. Thank you for whoever suggested it. I'm so sorry that I cannot remember who did it, but we're really keen to get more suggestions to talk about more topics that you guys want to hear us talking about.
And this is probably a good example of if you put in a suggestion, even if we don't use it straight away, there's a good chance that we will suddenly be like, we've got to do an episode. What are we going to do it on? And we've got to do it right now. And we'll find one of your suggestions, even if it's like months and months later.
Yeah.
Even possibly years later.
Yeah, we'll see, right?
We haven't gone that long, but
but yeah, thanks to everyone who has sent in suggestions. We've got a nice little backlog now that we're working towards. A few things we've got planned. I think in the next couple episodes, I'll be doing our next mystery episode. I've got a mystery up my sleeve that will be fun to talk about. We might have a guest on soon as well. Keep that super secret for the time being. But yeah, we've got some good stuff coming up. Sorry we've been a bit varying in our release schedule at the moment. But I guess we've always been like that, guys. We did weekly for a bit, but I think for the next while we might be fortnightly or so. We'll see how we go.
It wasn't me this time though.
It wasn't. Yeah, it was me and my work. But yeah, thanks so much for listening.
Yeah, if you could leave a review or a rating on Apple Podcast, that would be amazing.
Yeah, it gets us up there in the charts, makes people find us more, which is cool.
People listen to us mainly much on Apple Podcasts though? I thought it was.
I think it's half and half Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Spotify doesn't have a rating thing.
No, it doesn't.
They should add that in.
Yeah, it should. I think Apple
at least
Podcasts
for like podcasts, because they have like podcast, like I don't know, they have it set up for podcasts in areas. Like it's a different. It's just weird that they don't have any way of rating podcasts.
Yeah. So if you listen to us on Spotify, I might just need to tell a friend about us. That might be the way to go. But yeah, we appreciate all the support we get from you guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you when we see you.
Yeah. Well, we never actually see them.
You'll hear us when you hear us,
and we'll never hear you.
No.
Well, actually, I don't know.
Maybe.
Ask to be a guest, and then maybe we'll hear you.
Yeah.
But probably not. Because we're introverts and we don't want to talk to you.
Great. Another great note to end on. You're on a roll. Perfect. Why did we talk for an hour 20?
So is this still part of the podcast?
Yeah.